Good afternoon. Welcome back to another episode of the Lord of the Rings LCG Progression Series. And today is a card discussion of the Gap of Rohan Adventure Pack. It's a very Bree-focused expansion from the village of Bree. So let's take a look. The first hero is Barlaman Butterbur. 8 threat, 2/1/0/5. After Barlaman takes damage from an undefended attack, draw 1 card. Okay, so this hero is fulfilling one of the 4 major roles, being card draw, resource generation, attacking, and defending. He's a card draw hero, and he's going to draw cards fairly reliably if he has some healing. It'll require you to take undefended attacks, but he'll be able to take an undefended attack reliably before needing healing. Just one, typically, unless it's for very small amounts. And at this stage in the game, usually attacks are for 3 or 4 or 5. He can take an undefended attack for 4. However, if you declare an undefended attack from a 4 attack enemy and it gets a buff of +1, that's going to kill Barlaman, and you're probably not going to have a place to put the attack on somebody else because it's not common for a hero to have more than 5 hit points. So that adds an interesting dynamic to the strategy of taking undefended attacks on purpose, because you're going to run into problems sometimes if you're too cavalier with it. And you're going to need healing, because if he just takes 1 undefended attack per game and draws 1 card, that's not that good. He really needs healing. And he does have to take the damage, not just, you can't mitigate it too much. He's got to take at least 1 damage. So there's potential here to draw a lot of cards, but it's going to require some setup, and it's going to require some strategizing. So in terms of his reliability as a card draw engine, he certainly couldn't match something like Butterbur, or Aristor, whose card draw is more automated and requires less thinking. When you're looking at a hero's potential for fulfilling one of the 4 major roles, first you have to analyze whether they can do it at all, and then you have to analyze how easy it is to set them up to do it. And with Barlaman, it's not easy. It's going to require some combo cards, but it is possible. So let's take a look at the rest of the Bree cards and see what's here. Second Bree hero is Nob. 7 threat, 2/1/0/3. Reduce the cost of the first item you play on another Bree or Hobbit character each round by 1. Exhaust Nob to draw a card if that card is an item attachment ready a Bree character. So we have a second card draw hero from Bree. I don't know that you would play both Barlaman and Nob in the same deck, because you'd be neglecting your other essential roles for a deck. You wouldn't get resource generation, attack, or defense. Both these heroes are pretty bad at attacking and defending. About as bad as it gets, in fact. So if you played both Nob and Barlaman, you'd really be struggling in terms of attacking, defending, even willpower. So I think you'd be one or the other. And which one is better at card draw? Well, Nob is more reliable, I'd say. He doesn't require any setup to use. You need to be playing item attachments to make full use of him. But you could draw a card every round just by exhausting him. Now, to compare him to Butterbur draws 2 cards from exhausting him. So for Nob to be as good as one of the other prominent card draw heroes from the lore sphere, you have to make use of his cost reduction ability for item attachments. So in a item attachment heavy deck, Nob would fulfill 2 essential roles. I think he's a better hero than Barlaman for that reason. In that situation, at least, he's actually stronger than Barliman. That doesn't make a lot of sense thematically, but I think that's the case because Nob can do two things, cost reduction and card draw, and Barliman only does one. And he doesn't do the card draw so much better than Nob that he overcomes the fact that he only does one roll. In fact, he arguably doesn't even do card draw better than Nob because Nob can do it without requiring any setup, assuming you're willing to use Nob's action on that every round. So I think Nob could be quite good in the right situation. That situation being an item-heavy deck. Hairy Goatleaf. 8 threat, 2204. Cancel 1 point of combat damage just dealt to a hero you control once per round per hero. So it could help a little bit with Barliman, but I don't think you'd want to play Harry with Barliman because Harry has weak defense, not that great attack, not that great willpower, doesn't draw cards, doesn't gain any resources. If you play Harry and Barliman, you're kind of going to be hurting for your other essential roles, so there's not very many quests that combo is going to work against. I probably wouldn't play Harry too much because, except if there's major benefits for all Bree heroes or something like that, all Bree hero combos. Just because he doesn't fulfill any of the major roles very well. And we're really at a point in the game where strong decks are needed. And Harry's ability is nice. This is kind of less than an honor guard though, because an honor guard can cancel any damage, not just combat damage. Now, Harry can do it once per round per hero. That has a little value, but not a lot more value. Because typically you don't have multiple heroes set up to take attacks. You've just got like one defending hero with unexpected courage or other action advantage. Bob. So this is a very lore-heavy expansion. Bob, Hobbit Bree Servant, 2 cost, 1102. After Bob enters play, search your deck for a mount or pony and add it to your hand. Okay, so he is a little bit understated, but he draws a card, and he draws a specific card. That has potential. You don't have to use it on a Hobbit mount or a Bree mount. You could use it on something like Asphaloth if you've designed a deck that's trying to get out or another strong mount if you've designed a deck that really needs those cards to interplay quickly. Bob could help with that. You could, without, like when you're playing multiple copies of Asphaloth, a unique card, once you draw and get out one copy, the others become useless. Bob can help with that. You could reduce the copies of Asphaloth you play a little bit and add the copies of Bob that you play. And this would help you still draw Asphaloth in a timely manner, but reduce the downside of the fact that it's unique. So I like this card a little bit in some situations. His stats aren't much to speak of. He could block an attack though. And we'll see about Bree synergy, and he could help you draw an essential mount. So this card has some use for decks that have a really important or high-powered mount. Bree Pony. 1 cost, attached to a Bree or Hobbit character, restricted attached character gets +1 hit points. When attached character takes damage from an undefended attack, exhaust Bree Pony to reduce that damage by 1. So this would work with Barlaman, giving him additional ability to take undefended attacks to draw cards, and reducing the damage from the undefended attacks, again increasing his ability to take undefended attacks. The issue with Barlaman is that if you're playing multiple cards to make him work, and right now we're talking about like Barlaman, Bree Pony, and healing, this is not going to be easy to set up, and not easy to set up means not reliable. For example, you wouldn't be typically drawing a lot of cards with him starting turn 1 and continuing throughout the game, unless you get a good hand. So I like the potential of Barlaman with his combo card, or so far card, but let's see about cards. I think he's going to be fun to play. I am concerned about how reliable he will be to play relative to other card draw solutions. Half Pint. Attached to a character, 1 cost. So a little bit more about Bree Pony. It is a pretty decent card for defense for any Bree or Hobbit character. It compares favorably to Raven Winged Helm, which costs 2 out of the tactic sphere and reduces damage by 1. However, Bree Pony only works when you take undefended attacks, and that is not common or desirable as a defense solution typically, unless you're getting some kind of benefit from it, like with Barlaman. So Bree Pony, I mean, for me, for all intents and purposes, it might as well say Barlaman's pony, because it's kind of hard to imagine wanting to use it in too many other situations. Half Pint. 1 cost. Refresh action. Discard Half Pint to heal 2 damage from attached character, then put an item attachment in your discard pile on the top of your deck. So the discard a card for 1 cost to heal 2 damage is not much to speak of, so the primary use for this would be getting back an item, any item, from your discard pile to the top of your deck. So an item that was on a character that died, perhaps. That doesn't happen too much. There's not too many situations where there's an item in your discard pile that you really need, unless it's been discarded by a quest and you want to get it back. But that's kind of a niche use for this. Unless there's some combos that I'm not aware of, I probably wouldn't play this card too much. Just because the primary usage for it, getting an item back, isn't something that I really need that much, I find, in my playing. Oh, I have Half Pint there again. Seasoned Forager. Attached to a hero you control, limit 1 per player. Your heroes cannot gain resources from player card effects. Exhausts Seasoned Forager to reduce the cost of the next card you play this phase that matches the attached hero sphere by 1. So you can't gain resources from player card effects, so that rules out Steward of Gondor. So you lose 2 resources per round, and in exchange you get cost reduction of 1. The only use that I can imagine for this card would be in a thematic deck, where you don't want to play Steward of Gondor because it doesn't match the theme of the deck. Otherwise, there isn't really a situation where I would want to exchange 2 resources per round from Steward of Gondor for 1 cost reduction per round, and only if the card matches the attached hero sphere. So, the usage for this card for me would be in a thematic deck where I don't want to play Steward of Gondor. Pint, to play only if you control a unique Bree character, 2 cost, attached to a hero. Exhaust Pint to heal 1 damage from attached hero. Discard Pint to heal 5 damage from attached hero. Well, this is very good for Barlaman, This is actually very good for Treebeard as well. It's interesting that the picture shows, I guess, Barlaman maybe, but the quote is from Treebeard. I think this is actually quite good on Treebeard. If you have a unique Bree character, like if you're pairing a Treebeard with a Bree hero, like Knob, for example, for his card draw and cost reduction abilities, you could then play Pint on Treebeard for just one cost, right? Yeah. Oh no, only on Bree or Hobbit characters, so you could... Yeah, you could use this card on Treebeard for sure to heal 1 damage per round if you control a unique Bree character. Now, healing 1 damage per round for 2 cost isn't that good. Well, it's 2 cost once per game. Yorith costs once per healing. Warden of Healing costs 2 and gives you 2 healing per round, if it's on different characters. You can also discard this to heal 5 from attached hero in an emergency. I think that card is very good with Knob, because if you draw it with Knob, you can ready him and then draw another... Or no, it's once per round, but you can ready him and then use him to quest. So would I rather play Pint or would I rather play Warden of Healing? I'd rather play Warden of Healing. I think Pint overall is okay. Its emergency usage is nice if you should need it. I think it's a little bit worse than existing alternatives. So it probably makes sense like with Knob or with other item synergies is the situation in which I would play Pint over Warden of Healing or Yorith. In my opinion, Yorith is the best healing solution in the game. And Warden of Healing is competing with for second. And I think it's better than Pint because it's more consistent for more healing. But there's going to be situations where Pint is better because of its burst healing potential. With the caveat that you have to control a unique Bree character to play it. Scheming Stadler. 1 cost, 1 willpower, 0/0/1. After an undefended attack damages a hero you control, deal 1 damage to the attacking enemy. So it gives you some direct damage in combination with Barlaman primarily. These cards so far that synergize with Barlaman wanting to take undefended attacks are relatively minor benefits. What's the other one? Bree Pony, which can reduce the damage by 1. Hairy Goat Leaf, cancel 1 point of combat damage. After an undefended attack damages a hero, deal 1 damage to the attacking enemy. Well, this requires a lot of setup to take full advantage of because you can really only take 1 attack with Barlaman undefended before you're maxed out and he's in need of healing or reduction or something, which means he requires some setup, which means Scheming Stadler requires some setup. Even if you got her out on turn 1 or turn 2 and took an undefended attack right away. You know, early in the game, a lot of times Scheming Stadler without additional combo cards isn't going to do anything more than provide 1 willpower for 1 cost because you will have already had the damage on Barlaman and you're just waiting for cards to come out of the deck to help you put more attacks on Barlaman. That would be primarily healing cards that you need to come out. And therefore you can't make use of Scheming Stadler's response until after you've gotten your combo cards. However, 1 willpower for 1 cost is not bad. So even though you have to sometimes wait in order to take advantage of the response, you're still getting something for the character. In fact, you're getting This is acceptable, you know, 1 willpower for 1 cost, 2 willpower for 2 cost. This is good. So I would play this card in the Barlaman deck. It's not going to scale that well with its stats, but it scales pretty well with its response. Because if you were doing like an undefended attack every round, if you had Barlaman set up to the point where you could do that, an undefended attack every round, then 1 damage per round for only 1 cost, and you get 1 willpower is pretty good. That's strong if you could get it to that point. But early in the game, sometimes it's going to do nothing, or the response will do nothing, and all you'll get is 1 willpower for 1 cost, and that's not terrible, especially if you get it turn 1. But as the game goes on, if that's all you got for the card, it would be not that great. It wouldn't scale very well. So it does need the combo cards to take advantage, to take full advantage of the card, and to make the card really good. Without the response, I don't think I'd play this card too much just for the 1 willpower and 1 cost. But if I could set up the response to the point where I could get it once per round, that'd be great. I would play that card in that deck every time. Breland Protector, 2 cost, 0212, devoted. So if you have all Bree heroes or all Dunedain heroes, you don't need a resource match. Exhaust Breland Protector to cancel a shadow effect just triggered during an attack and deal the attacking enemy another shadow card. If this attack deals no damage, return Breland Protector to its owner's hand after the attack. Okay. So the good. 2 cost for 2 attack is good, especially out of Spirit, where attack can sometimes be hard to come by. Devoted is good, so you don't have to play Spirit here, the Spirit Sphere, to play this card if you have all Dunedain or all Bree heroes. The ability, canceling a shadow effect is good, dealing another shadow card is less good. And if the attack deals no damage, return Breland Protector to its owner's hand, which is bad because then you have to replay it. This costs you resources. I'm trying to think of a situation where I think this card would be very good. That caveat at the end of the card, returning it to your hand, is a major negative, because that will have meant that you just spent 2 resources to cancel a shadow card effectively. Presumably you would have been canceling a shadow effect which was going to do something horrifying or deal damage to a hero. And if you cancel it and then get no damage, well, that has probably done something for you. However, 2 resources for that effect is a steep cost. You can cancel a shadow effect with Hasty Stroke for 1 cost. There's a few other ways as well, like with the 1 ring and Inner Strength, where you can do it for 1 threat, which is even cheaper than 1 resource. It's like basically half a resource. So 2 resources for this effect is very steep. That's very, very expensive. And there are better ways to cancel shadow cards. So I think this Breland Protector would be good only in a situation where, like, for example, if you were taking undefended attacks and you wanted to cancel shadow effects, you could play Breland Defender and mitigate damage, and in a situation where you already know you're going to be taking damage. That's where Breland Protector is strongest. If you think there's a chance you're not going to be taking any damage, I don't think I would use this card in that situation. So the effect really needs to be used in a situation where you know you're going to be taking damage in any case, and you just want to take less of it, or cancel some other horrifying shadow effect. And in that situation, this card's quite good with the Devoted and the 2 attack for 2 cost, and the response of canceling shadow effects, mitigating damage, or canceling some other horrifying effect. That's the situation where I would play this card. If you're playing it in a situation and using it in a situation where it may be returning to your hand, I would not do that. because it costs too much. Unless the shadow effect is just so horrifying that it seems worth 2 resources to cancel it. Yeah. Interesting card. It's not a simple card. A Stout Heart. 0 cost. Cancel a shadow effect just triggered during an undefended attack. After this attack damages a single hero, the controller of that hero may spend 1 resource from its pool to reduce their threat by 3. That's a great way to cancel a shadow effect. First of all, it cancels. Let's compare it to the card we just saw, Bree Protector, and let's compare it to Hasty Stroke, another spirit card which cancels a shadow effect. So, Bree Protector, you cancel a shadow effect and you draw another card. Stout Heart, you just cancel it outright. Hasty Stroke cancels a shadow effect outright, and it costs 1. A Stout Heart cancels a shadow effect, but only triggered during an undefended attack, and Bree Protector can also cancel a shadow effect during any attack, not just an undefended attack. If you're going to be taking undefended attacks, I would play a Stout Heart. This is a great card. Threat reduction, cancel shadow effect. I would play this in every deck where I'm intending to take undefended attacks. It's very strong. Every deck where I had access to Spirit. Threat reduction of 3 for 1 cost, in addition to canceling a shadow effect. Phenomenal. But only in decks where you're intending to take undefended attacks. If that is the case, I would play this absolutely. Great card in that deck. Gift of Foresight, 2 cost, attached to a hero with at least 2 printed willpower, limit 1 per hero. Attached hero gets +2 shields if it has not committed to the quest this round. Well, in a situation where you've got a hero like, for example, Thangle with his 3 willpower, you could boost his shields to 5 if you're intending to use him as a defender. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. But not that great. But it's pretty good, but not phenomenal, because we have Gondorian Shield, which gives you 2 shields for 1 willpower, and the only caveat being it needs to be used on a Gondor character. That's the best defensive card in the game. However, there are some cards that Gift of Foresight would work well on. Elrond could be very good on Elrond. However, a lot of the time, when you've got a hero that is strong in willpower and strong in shields or strong in attacking, or really strong in any 2 stat categories, one of the primary things you want to do as quickly as possible is give it action advantage so you can make use of both of its stats. Now, the caveat with this card is a big one, which is that you can't make use of both of its stats because it can't commit to the quest if you want to get the 2 shield bonus. So it's only good on a card in which is relatively strong in 2 stats, but then negates the advantage of having a card that's relatively strong in 2 stats because you can't use one of them. Now, would you ever want to use this to buff a hero that's strong in willpower but not strong in shields? Well, you'd be making it stronger in shields, but then you wouldn't be able to use its willpower. Using this card would be very good without the caveat of not being able to commit to the quest, but negating the benefit of one of your stats, which you're at least relatively strong in with 2 willpower, in exchange for 2 shields, doesn't make a lot of sense to me in an elite deck. This could be a thematic card, but it doesn't make a lot of sense to me in an elite deck. Elite decks want to make full use of all of the stats available to you on your heroes. Negating one of those stats in exchange for another is something that I would see in a thematic card, but not typically a card that I would put in an elite deck because you're reducing the versatility in exchange for a stat. And if you got so much of this stat that you just could overpower the enemy, then you would perhaps consider it worth it. But for just 2 shields for 2 cost, I don't think it's worth losing access to your willpower most of the time. Considering there are other ways to get the 2 shields, like for example, Gondorian Shield. 1 cost for 2 shields with no caveats. If you play it on a Gondorian hero, or 1 cost for 1 shield, and then you get 1 shield from Halberg of Mail or something like that. Or from Inner Strength, or yeah. So typically the going market value for 1 shield would be 1 cost with no caveats. So 2 shields for 2 cost with a major caveat is probably going to be a thematic card for me. Archit Ale Keeper, 3 cost 1202, devoted. After an undefended attack damages a hero you control, ready Archit Ale Keeper and give it +1 attack until the end of the phase. Okay, so it's another card that works with Barlaman. So you could use Archit Ale Keeper to do 2 actions, but his stats suggest you only are ever going to have 1 use for him, which is attacking. So I guess you could quest for 1, and then after an undefended attack damages Barlaman, you could ready him and give him +1. This card, I would like to see this card have 3 attack to really be playable, or 2 willpower. I think it needs 1 more of one of the stats as its base value in order for me to be enthusiastic about it. 2 willpower or 3 attack, and I would be pretty happy with this card. As it is, for me it costs too much. It's not going to do a lot until you get Barlaman set up. And once you do get Barlaman set up, I may be in the minority about this, but I don't put a lot of value on action advantage. I consider action advantage relatively cheap to acquire, because with an unexpected courage, you can pay 2 costs to get an extra action advantage every round till the end of the game. So I don't tend to assign a lot of value to it. Let's say you played Unexpected Courage relatively early and used it for 4 rounds. That's half of a resource per action advantage. So it could be even less, like if you went like a 5, 6, 7, 8 round game, which is happening more and more with these long extended party quests, which is great. It does reduce the value of action advantage, though, because you can pay 2 for it with Unexpected Courage, and if you went 8 rounds, that would be 0.25 resources per round, which would mean that the value of action advantage on a card like this would just not be that high. If you could get 4 action advantages out of this card, like if you could take an undefended attack 4 times, I think that's about what you would need to do to make this card good. And given that you need to take an undefended attack on Barlaman 4 times, that requires significant setup. And so a lot of the time this card just isn't going to be that great. You don't get nothing for it, but it just isn't going to be that great. So I would like to see it. I don't think I'd like to see it cost less. I think I'd like to see it have 2 willpower. Because action advantage on a character that doesn't have very strong stats in 2 areas, in at least 2 areas, doesn't do a lot. So you have to, with this card's action advantage, you have to have a caveat that A, it needs to be set up, B, action advantage, The value of it is low in my opinion, and C, action advantage on characters that don't have a strong secondary stat is also low. So the value of the action advantage on this card, in my opinion, is too low for the cost of the card. That's my thinking on it. I would like to see one more willpower on this card, I think. And then I'd be much more enthusiastic about it. Hopefully that makes sense. So a lot of Bree cards in this one. Not a lot of Bree synergy per se, but a lot of synergy on taking undefended attacks, which is very interesting. But the caveat with that is that it is not going to be easy to set up and requiring multiple cards to get up to full strength. When you get it up to full strength, then you can take an undefended attack every round, heal it off of him, and draw one card or deal one damage each time, or something like that, or cancel shadow effect from time to time. That's quite good, but it is going to take some effort to set up, and therefore it's going to be weak early sometimes, and is going to struggle against some quests. But a very cool concept, and I would very much like to see more Bree synergy developed. So, thanks for watching.